All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we start this video today, I wanted to shout out one of our viewers who made this awesome suggestion in the comments to do this video, and his name is LeBron James. So LeBron, I didn't know this, guys. He's watching this channel, guys. The king himself watches Jackstown, so it's an absolute honor. It would be disrespectful, and it would just be egregious to not honor the king himself, LeBron James, and make an NFL franchises tier list. The king is calling, we are answering. So let's do this franchises tier list just like I did with Major League Baseball. We're gonna take every single franchise and give my opinion on where I think they belong in the hierarchy, this time with the NFL. Now, one thing I wanna clarify before we get into it, I think I said this in the MLB franchises video, but I wanted to make sure right out of the gates that I said this specifically. The most important thing to take into account is the franchise's success, but that's not the only thing that factors in. I think fan base, home stadium, like do the fans show up? Is it a vibe to be at that stadium? And also ultimately relevancy in the epic of the whole league. You know, that matters too. How relevant is this franchise? How much do they matter? How much do general fans, not necessarily fans of this team, but how much do NFL fans care about this team, or MLB fans for the last video? So franchise success and relevancy overall, that all matters. Okay, so we're going to factor in everything, so keep that in mind. But with that being said, guys, without further ado, let's get into our NFL franchises tier list. Make sure to comment your opinions. We are starting in alphabetical order by the city, I believe, city or state. So we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. They've had success. They've been to the Super Bowl once. They've had some good teams, you know, Larry Fitz, Kurt Warner, right now Kyler Murray. They've had some good years. They've never won anything, and they've had some bad moments as well. I will put them as a C-tier franchise. I don't think they're poverty or anything. I think they've put out some good teams. A lot of years they're exciting and worth talking about, but they've never won a Super Bowl or anything. So for that reason, and they've had some bad years too, some choking years, some disappointing years. So for that reason, I will put the Cardinals in the C tier. Oh, this one's tough. The Atlanta Falcons. You know, the whole 28-3 thing really hurts them. But you know what? You guys might not like this. I will put them in C tier because they've been to 2 Super Bowls, okay? And I'm going to put them in C tier mainly because of Deion Sanders. He played for this franchise. Matt Ryan as well. They've made a few NFC championship games. They've had some really good years. But I don't know. You could maybe argue D tier. It's kind of a tough call because 28-3, almost, I mean, that alone can probably put them in D tier. So I don't know. It's up to you guys, up to your interpretation. Then we have the Baltimore Ravens. They haven't been a franchise for that long, but they've won 2 Super Bowls. They've been known to have a couple of the greatest defensive teams of all time. Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Lamar Jackson. Now, they're always really good in my opinion. And for a franchise especially that hasn't been around for that long, great fans as well. I think the Ravens are an A-tier franchise. In their brief history, not even 3 decades, they've accomplished so much. Some of the best defensive squads, 2 championships. A lot of credit to the Ravens. High class, high quality organization. Then we have the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be a tough one, guys, because they've choked a lot. They've never won a Super Bowl. They've been to the Super Bowl 4 times, however. They're great now. They're the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. They have Josh Allen. They had Jim Kelly in the past, Andre Reed, great players. And the Bills Mafia, don't even get me started on how great of a fan base they are. So because of the fact that they've been to 4 Super Bowls, they've had a lot of great teams, despite choking a lot and not having won. The combination of some success with their fan base, I think the Bills are in the B tier. I think that's a good medium for fan base meets lack of Super Bowls. So let's just middle it out and put them in the B tier. The Carolina Panthers, I mean, the year of Cam in 2015 might alone make them better than D. And I guess they've had a lot, they've had a lot of good players. Luke Kuechly, you know, Cam, like I said, Steve Smith. They've had some exciting teams. I don't know. I think, to me, a D tier is kind of like a poverty franchise. When I say the Panthers are a poverty franchise, they've been to 2 Super Bowls. They've never won any, and they haven't been a team for that long. So for, I guess, their brief history, I wouldn't say they're a poverty franchise. I'll put them in the C tier. I think they've had a couple good enough years to not make them a poverty franchise. They haven't been around for that long, so I wouldn't say they've had enough failures to be a D tier franchise, but that's just me. We move on to the Chicago Bears. Bears. Ooh, this one's going to be tough. They've had a lot of bad years, but that Bears defense in 85, 86, Walter Payton, just such a storied past, such a great history. Mike Ditka. Oh, man, they've had a phenomenal history. You know what? I'm going to put them in S tier. I know it might be controversial, but that Bears team from the 80s, those couple years, the year they won the Super Bowl, that alone, that era, the Walter Payton era, the refrigerator era, the Mike Ditka coaching era, like that era was so legendary, and people care about the Bears so much. They're one of the most popular franchises. The Bears-Packers rivalry might be the best one in the NFL. So I think because of their history, their relevancy, like I pointed to, I think the Bears are an S tier organization, even though they haven't been good recently, and I do not look forward to watching them this year. I'm sorry, Bears fans. But we have the Bengals next, okay? You know what? I think this is one of those where I think you got to include past and present. Don't forget about that. I think this is one of those where the very recent past recently matters. And I think with the Joe Burrow era and the Bengals reaching the Super Bowl last year, I think that's elevated them from D to C. I think that alone has kind of moved them up a tier. I mean, you have to when you made the Super Bowl last year. You have a great young core, already probably the best quarterback you've had in franchise history, other than what's his name? I mean, maybe I don't know, Boomer Esiason, is that what his name was? Yeah. So we're gonna go with the Bengals in C tier. Cleveland Browns. Okay. This one. Okay. People make fun of the Browns a lot, right? Because they've had some horrendous seasons in the recent past. A lot of failures, a lot of choking, a lot of disappointment. But they also had Jim Brown. And they have a very storied past, the Dog Pound, the amazing fans of Cleveland who have had a lot to endure. So remember, success meets relevancy. The Browns have had success way back in the day, not recently at all, but they've had some legends, especially Jim Brown. Him alone might make them, elevates them a ton. And they have great fans. So I will put the Browns in B tier despite some of their failures, but I don't know. They've had some D quality seasons, though. A lot of D tier failures. So that one's up for debate, just like all of these are technically. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team. I know a lot of you hate the Cowboys, probably because most people who aren't from Dallas or aren't Cowboys fans, they hate the Cowboys. But you got to put the Cowboys in S tier. I mean, they're the most popular team in the NFL, okay? So they might be one of the more qualified teams to be in the S tier. And don't forget, despite the popularity and relevance, this team's won many Super Bowls, okay? They've had so many legends. Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. Come on. They've Des Bryant, if you even want to say. Tony Romo. They've had a lot of great players. And, even before that, Roger Staubach, right? Like, all these guys, just legendary players, legendary franchise, and Jerry Jones, of course. Come on, the Cowboys are S tier. Let's be real about it. The Denver Broncos, they had the John Elway era. They had the Peyton Manning era. So they've got 3 Super Bowls. Great fans. I'm going to put the Broncos in A tier. I think they're a little bit below the Bears and Packers because they don't have that storied past. I think before they won the Super Bowl with Elway, like before the 90s, they didn't really have much success in the 80s, 70s, stuff like that. So I would say very much in the last 20 to 25 years, they've had their success. And they've also had periods of not being that good. Like right now, they'll go several years of being mediocre to below mediocre. So they don't always put out a great team, but they've had some great teams and 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, obviously. So Broncos, I think A tier is fitting for them. Detroit Lions, oh my God. See, again, relevancy, Lions are relevant, okay? But success, they've never heard of that word. So where do I put the Lions? I'm going to put the Lions in C tier because the fans are good. They're relatively popular. People talk about the Lions. People care. So, but they're pretty poverty, though. Oh my God. See, this is one of those where if I'm just going on a franchise's success, I would go with D tier, no doubt. The Lions haven't even been to the Super Bowl, but they've had legends like Barry Sanders, and they have great fans, and they're relevant. I think relevancy matters, and I think that alone puts them in C tier. They have the Thanksgiving game. So they're kind of like the Browns. Despite having so many failures and people make fun of them, I think there's other factors that keep them out of the D tier. Then we have the Green Bay Packers. If it's not the Cowboys as the most no doubt S tier, it might be the Packers. I mean, they're in that conversation. The Packers, come on, I don't need to say it. Bart Starr, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, legendary players, legendary quarterbacks. Always a great product. So many championships, and they're always good. Lambeau Field. Amazing that they can play in such a small city like Green Bay and still be such an incredible franchise every year, seemingly. No question about the Packers. Houston Texans, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first D tier. They're not relevant. No one cares. I know they're a pretty new franchise. They had a couple nice years with J.J. Watt, but who cares, okay? Because the greatest quarterback they've ever had is way too much into massages, and they've never amounted to anything. I don't even think they've been to an AFC championship game, and they suck now. So I'm sorry, Texans fans, for those of you out there, you can't argue anything but D tier. I apologize. The Indianapolis Colts, this was a C or D tier franchise before the great Peyton Manning arrived. Him and Andrew Luck, they got one Super Bowl. They had a good run. They had some good runs. I'm thinking about A or B tier. I'm gonna put them in B tier. They've had a lot of success in the past. Not as much recently though. Maybe you can argue A tier, but we might have to come back to them. But this is a team that has accomplished a lot. Won the Super Bowl, been to several AFC championship games. I think the Peyton Manning era alone, I mean, that's everything for the Colts franchise history, basically. So we'll put the Colts in the B tier for now. I just don't think they're at the level of the Broncos and Ravens, in my opinion. That's just me though. My Jacksonville Jaguars are next on the list. Look, I'm a Jags fan. Call me biased. Call me whatever you want. But the truth of the matter is, despite people thinking, there are people out there who think this is a poverty franchise. And I gotta be honest, guys, those people, they're just so, intelligent. They're a D-tier franchise. There's no arguing. Let me put it this way. I can be biased and highball the Jags as a franchise, and they're still in D tier. Actually, they might be an F tier if there was an F tier. I love my Jags. At least I'm not a bandwagon, right? But look, I love my Jags, but at the end of the day, what can you argue? Duval, rise up. Look, I love you Jags fans out there, for those of you who might exist. What can we argue? We haven't done anything ever. We're always a laughingstock. We're a poverty franchise. Again, I love us buying some stock early now. I've been a fan for many years. I will always be a fan. I think some days, one of these decades or centuries, we will amount to something, but we're D tier, no questions asked. Sorry, my fellow Jags fans out there. But yeah, that's the truth of the matter. The Kansas City Chiefs, a classic franchise, might have been A tier for a long time, because they do have great fans. Arrowhead, they've accomplished many things. They were in the first Super Bowl ever, but the Patrick Mahomes era has skyrocketed the Chiefs, I believe, to the S tier. I mean, this team is always good. They've won their division, I think, 6 years in a row. Always a playoff team, always a contender. Great players, great fans, great place to play. They matter so much. They've been kind of the rulers of the NFC, the best team in the NFC the last several years. AFC the last several years. They're basically, the AFC's gone through them the last handful of years. So for that reason, I believe they are S tier. Then we have the Chargers. This one's tough. They had great fans, or good fans, in San Diego. Now that they're in LA, oh man, they don't have as many good fans. It's basically their home games are like road games. They've never won the Super Bowl, but people care about the Chargers. They matter. They've had great players in the past, but they've never won a Super Bowl. They've been disappointing many times. I will put them in C tier, but you know what? Okay, I'm going to move the Browns down to C tier. I've changed my mind, because now that I'm thinking about putting the Chargers in C tier, I think with the Browns, they've had, having so many disappointments, that's going to move you down some tiers. I think for that reason, I would put the Browns in C tier. Actually, I've had a change of heart, guys. Then we have the Rams. I would put the Rams I mean, the Super Bowl champs. They won 2 Super Bowls, actually. When they were in St. Louis, they had a period of time where they weren't the best franchise. They've had a really good run recently with Sean McVay. You know what? I think recent success matters. I think the Rams are an A-tier franchise. The recent success they have, how well a run of an organization they've been the last handful of years in the Sean McVay era, I think they deserve to be an A-tier franchise. And now they're in LA. They're more relevant. People care. The media there. They're popular. They're the champs. I mean, Aaron Donald, all these great players. So I think the Rams are an A-tier franchise right now. Then we have the Las Vegas Raiders. I almost said Oakland. I don't know if I'll ever get used to Las Vegas. But these are, you could argue, maybe the best fans in football. They haven't had too much success recently, but this team has a storied past with John Madden, the Super Bowls they won, Marcus Allen, all the legends, Howie Long. This is an S-tier franchise. The Oakland, I said it, I'm sorry. It just sounds better to say Oakland than Las Vegas, but we will put the Raiders in S-tier. I believe they deserve it. Then we have the Miami Dolphins. Dan Marino did his best, but this team has never won a Super Bowl. They've been 2-1. And they're kind of relevant, I think, but they've had some success, not too much though. I would put the Dolphins in C tier. I think, well, actually, you know what? I just remembered. I'm sorry. I'm going to put them in B tier because we got to remember the Dolphins in, I believe it was 72. They did win a Super Bowl. I totally forgot about that. They had the undefeated team in the 70s that was the only undefeated team in NFL history through the regular season and playoffs. Dan Marino, Miami's, fun. They're relevant. I think people talk about the Dolphins. People talk about Tua, what they've done in this offseason. So you know what? Maybe it's bold, but I will put the Dolphins in the B tier. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings. This one's tough because, the Purple People Eaters, they've had some great teams. They've had Randy Moss. They've had Adrian Peterson. A lot of great players. They have a really solid team now. Really good fans. That's a really good place to play, Minnesota, for football. Like, the fans turn up, show out. That atmosphere in the Vikings' new arena or new stadium is really nice. The horn of the Vikings. You know what? All those things put into account, despite having never won a Super Bowl, I will put the Vikings in the B tier. I think all those other factors, they're coming in to save them. I would say the Vikings are a B tier franchise. Then we have the New England Patriots, who weren't in a very high tier before Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but alas, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick happened, and they are now a no-doubt S-tier franchise because, look, 6 Super Bowls, that's it. That's enough said. The best probably 10, 15-year stretch in NFL history was, or however long Tom Brady was there, that was an amazing period of time. And honestly, a dynasty. I mean, they won 3 Super Bowls in a 5-year stretch. Bill Belichick's still there. Patriots, great fans. The Boston area fans, they're always going to be great. Every franchise there, I think, is pretty great, and for that reason, Patriots, S tier. New Orleans Saints, they have a Super Bowl, Drew Brees era, lots of success, and I think they're usually putting out a very solid team at the minimum, and they're always competitive, I think, for the most part at least. This is a high-quality organization, though. Like, they have, most years, they put out a good quality product. And they have really good fans, especially after Hurricane Katrina, how they rallied together. You know what? I will put the Saints in A tier. I think they deserve it. They've done a lot, especially the last 15 to 20 years. They were once a laughingstock, but they are far removed from that, in my opinion. So Saints at A tier, New York Giants, New York Football Giants, S tier, absolutely. It's the Giants. Lawrence Taylor, Phil Simms, Odell, whoever you want to throw out there. The New York Football Giants. Eli Manning, I forgot about him. They won 2 Super Bowls in the last 15 years. They beat Tom Brady twice. They've won many times in the past. Come on, we know the legends that are in the history of the New York Giants franchise. It's a phenomenal history. The New York Jets, people laugh at the Jets and think they're a poverty franchise, and they are for the most part, but the fans are great. There are a lot of Jets fans that just love that team. And they have had success a long time ago. They did win a Super Bowl with Broadway Joe Namath, which is one of the more famous Super Bowl wins of all time. It almost feels like more than just one Super Bowl win. And they, like I said, they have great fans. They're popular. So all that combined, I will put them in B tier despite not too much success. If they had a lot of recent success, this might be an A or S tier franchise, but they've had a lot more failures than their other New York counterpart in the Giants, so I think B tier is good for them. Philadelphia Eagles, another super popular franchise. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I turn on ESPN and they're talking about the Eagles and Cowboys, like the NFC East. NFC East is probably the most relevant division. Eagles, they finally won a Super Bowl a few years ago. I think they're an A-tier franchise. I don't think they're quite at the level of like Bears, Cowboys, Packers, Patriots, Giants, stuff. These guys here in S-tier, in my opinion. But they have great fans. They usually have a really good product. And they did win a Super Bowl, so you can't say anymore, well, this team hasn't won a Super Bowl. So I think the Eagles are an A-tier franchise. Still one of the better organizations in football. But we move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We have our 8th S-tier team, the Steelers. Terry Bradshaw, Ben Roethlisberger, gritty, tough, mean Joe Green. I mean, the history of the Steelers. I mean, all these S-tier teams have such a storied, legendary history that goes back decades. So you just have to put the Steelers in the S-tier. The Seattle Seahawks were probably a C, maybe even a D tier franchise before Russell Wilson showed up. But the Legion of Boom era was one that will never be forgotten. And the Russell Wilson era in general, Pete Carroll, the fans in Seattle, the 12th man, they're awesome. So for that reason, I will put them in B tier. They've moved up. They did win the Super Bowl. But they've also had a long period of time before the last 10 years of being not good at all. So they won their first Super Bowl in 2014. And before starting that era until the last couple of years, they've kind of skyrocketed. They've become very relevant and not a poverty franchise by any means anymore. We have another S-tier franchise, the San Francisco 49ers. Guys, I did not expect this many S-tier franchises, but I honestly think that, I can't see anyone being moved down. I think all these S-tier franchises very much deserve it. The 49ers, they might be I take back what I said. They might be the most storied franchise. Them, the Packers, Cowboys, Giants, Steelers, franchises like that. 49ers, Joe Montana, who was the GOAT before Brady showed up. I mean, Steve Young, legendary history. We all know about the 49ers. I don't need to go into any more detail. Then we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were probably D tier before Tom Brady showed up, but they did win a Super Bowl in 2002. But despite that, they were still pretty poverty. But now that Brady's there, they're very much relevant. And I think the last 2 or 3 years has taken them from D tier to probably B tier, honestly. I mean, them and the Rams are the 2 best teams in the NFC. Tom Brady makes everyone relevant, let's be honest. So I will put them in the B tier. Then we have the Tennessee Titans, who have never won a Super Bowl. They were close. They lost to the Rams the greatest show on turf, right? They were very close, but they nevertheless have never won a Super Bowl. They've had a lot of good teams, especially recently. Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill era. I don't think they're at the level of Jags and Texans. I don't think they're poverty or anything. I'm going to put them in C tier. Yeah, I think that's where they belong. I think they're not as irrelevant as like the Jags and Texans, and they're usually better than them. They usually put out some good teams. And they've had good teams in the past. So I will put the Titans there. We finish with the Washington Commanders. Where do I put the Commanders? I think they've had a lot of good teams in the late 80s, early 90s. They've won 3 Super Bowls, I believe. But they've also had, their ownership sucks. They're not a well-run franchise. And in the last 10 years, they've had some rough years as well. So, I will put them in B tier. I think that's fitting. I think they're a solid, respectable organization that does have a storied past, but also they've had a lot of bad moments and poorly run teams as well. So I think that's fitting. Guys, I gotta be honest. I really didn't know which direction this was gonna go. I didn't plan too much ahead of this video. I didn't expect there to be this many S-tier teams and only 2 D-tier franchises, but I guess there are some you can definitely argue as D tier. Maybe the Lions and Browns, maybe the Falcons. I don't know. There are a few teams that you could maybe say in the C tier that are D tier. But in my opinion, I don't see it. I think the Texans and Jags are on another level. Not in the good way, obviously, but I think the Texans and Jags are a notch below everyone else because I think these other teams in C, they've had a longer history and they've had moments that there are to brag about. They've had somewhat of a storied past. other than maybe the Panthers. But a lot of these franchises have been around a long time, have had a lot of great players, and they're more relevant than the Texans and Jags, fan base-wise or otherwise. But I don't know. That's just my opinion, guys. I definitely want to hear your opinions. This might be even more hotly debated of a video than my MLB franchises tier list, because I think I utilize the relevancy factor more in this video compared to just franchise success. But yeah, it's the totality of the franchise. It's not just success, in my opinion. I think you got to take into account the fans and the relevancy. How much do they matter? I think that's an important thing to talk about. We're talking about franchises in general, not just franchise success tier lists. So that's just me, guys. That's my opinion. Comment yours. Let me know where you think I'm right, where you think I'm wrong. Anything and everything, I'd love to hear it. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're an NFL fan and you haven't done so already. Why not? It's free. And guys, thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you all in the next one.